Keep in mind, they sabotage me and try to make it hard for me to get my thoughts together. But nonetheless, this video is about who is truly naturally elected versus those who were expelled and rely on electronics. Elect, right? Banking to ban the king. Who, what, when, where, how, why. These are the peasants. I went over demos and demos many times. Demos meaning people and peasants, and demos, D-E-I-M-O-S, meaning terror, who accompanies Mars into combat. I've gone over his consorts and how this is relevant in masculinity and so on. So that leads us to the Ishtar crowd, all the other deities, which are basically worldly cowards deities. This is why Abba won, and the E trying to be the O lost. The shit is flushed, as they say. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Techne, technology, technique. It comes from the word techne, meaning creative power. They believe that technology and electronics and drugs and illusion, you know, little magic wand bitches versus who really has the spirit naturally, okay, is superior to what they call physis, which is natural instincts, right? Physics, which also goes back to figure it out, and senses, right? Sensibility. They think that God is a God of technology and some bitch shit like that. They're basically Satan worshipers, worldly, unnatural filth. And they downplay the importance of sense. They think technology and reason, you know, really treason, right? Rebellion, a bunch of peasants, because who can't think with their heart and their mind, they can only think with their dicks, are superior. That's why even the word nous, in terms of intellect and intelligence, right, is a word for we in French, and news, right? The people who want you to believe the news and the people that interpret the news, which are basically controlled opposition, corporate shell, political group kind of bitches, right? Kind of Bill O'Reilly's network, kind of Hillary Clinton's network kind of bitches, right? You know, who go on Facebook and post things and say, these guys are lying for this reason, and they pretend not to be Democrats or Republicans, and they often are, or they're other controlled opposition bitches. Remember, they slowed down my videos, dehydrated me, chemically castrate me, turned America, really the world against me, right? And it goes back to their Matthew, you know, mate, myth, math, team, and so on and so forth, time 1022. And this has everything to do with Prometheus. And in the next video, I'll have a more harsh version of this video, and I'll show you the pictures that prove my point. Pro meaning before, manatheno meaning intelligence, eos, E-us, right, forethinker, right, in terms of a worldly forethinker, the E-us, right. This contrasts with the epimethus, an afterthinker, and there's wordplay there, who gives a shit. Make a long story short, these are the people who think in terms of a long-term life in this world, right? They think it's okay to be a sex slave weirdo led by pedophiles and people who are quite often cannibals in more than ways than one. And it's okay to be their sex slave and to plan a long-term living in this world. This is what survivors really are. And this goes back to the story of the rape of the Sabines. Read every version from every kind of site that isn't going to mess up your phone and put viruses and so on and so forth in your phone, right? And read about this and think about the deeper implications of it. The deeper implications are of society, of cowardly women who decide that the flesh is more important than the spirit, and that they're going to plan for the long term to either live and be lesbians and not plant their seeds or be abstinent, or to plant their seeds, basically serving this world until they die and God despises them. God despises everybody outside of the divine order. Okay, these people are in rebellion. They live by terror, and they support terror, either through non-action, you know, and subtle participation, or overt participation. Absolutely despicable, you know, certainly unworthy of me. And they'll say stupid things to try to justify their despicable existence. Okay, so when you really think about what a man-child is, it is a play on word from child is cold, right? Man cold, right? the ice, the snow people, and we won't get into that. You know, I'm not racist, obviously I'm part white, but I've chosen the true African direction, not because I give a shit about skin, right? I'm not a skinhead, I don't care about skin color. It's a matter of principle and serving God. So when we look at captive, right? See up, I vi, Evi, pick, right? Who gets to pick? No, you naturally do things in terms of being in sync or instincts, right? And of course, it's a play on words for stink because they want to play out the natural perspective when even their Bible says unnatural lust when referring to homosexuality and talking about things that are unnatural as being evil. So when we look at calm, right? See all, right? Versus angry, right? In Ra or in Re. Why are you angry? This also goes back to summer and winter. Summer is Re Mas or Re Miss, Re Mas. So you're, sleeping with the dumb female that they assume, they look at it in terms of the flesh and not the spirit. You have to understand that. So when they say they're raw fucking, right? Human trafficking, right? Human raw fucking, with the play on words. They're referring to the flesh, the survivor harlots that were willing to roll with it. And this also goes back to the rape of the Sabines. Pretty much everything goes back to the rape of the Sabines and the Roman ovation and the lesser victory ritual of the Roman generals wearing the myrtle as a sign of being purified or justified because some of the people rolled with it. Some people survived and were willingly taken captive and were assimilated into the empire, and they take that as a sign of them liberating these people from a lesser culture. And that goes to the women who threw themselves between the Sabines and the other armies that were trying to take back their women from the Romans who had children by them, and they were trying to get them to confuse, right? To fuse together, to become together and to be a family. Right? And of course, people like me would kill the woman and the children and the man for the extreme dishonor and evil. You're not going to take my daughter and make her evil. You're not going to do this, right? If I raised her myself, you're not going to take her. I'm going to kill her and the kids, okay? And you, because you're all evil. You're not going to get me to make a deal with the devil versus those who say, let's be a family and build toward the world. It's that simple, okay? These people go out into nature and try to internalize the world energy and not the spirit of God, which goes back to the spirit, which goes back to the stick fighting, sparring, spirit, spearing, spirit, which goes back to the magic wand, fake illusion bitches. Witches have magic wands. They have broomsticks, and it goes back to the tree of life versus the tree of illusion, right? What life really is versus life in this world, which is, hell, goes back to being El, which is unnatural, right? If you're in an unnatural state of mind, you're El. Everything else is just a bunch of magic card bitches trying to redefine it, which goes back to the fire and Prometheus, okay? And he stole fire from the gods. We have like a bunch of fires right now, the worst fire in California history right now, as we come close to 2019, which is symbolically 400 years of slavery, and people are going to be freed, right? Satanically liberated, which goes back to Liber and Proserpina, and it goes back to the idea of liberty as a deity, which is basically a Sabine whore who has sold her body and gotten rid of her soul, having a union with the world. Okay, you gotta really think about it in terms of death, right? When these people take this path, they die shallow, sniveling cowards. Life is short, and then they die cowards, and then they subject their children to the same process. They don't warn their children in a way that allows them to avoid repeating the cycle, and then they die. They're basically willingly subjecting themselves to the process of extreme dishonor and spitting and pissing and defecating on the graves of the martial artists who died for their culture, but more importantly, the martial artists who were in the true martial art order of Horus the Elder, Har-O Ares, the falcon versus the hippo-looking demon scum. Look at a hippo in the water in the picture that I will post at the end of this. It's a demon. Okay, these are the world serpents, right? The world is a female. The world serpent is a female. The gender neutral man is the slayer of the serpent, which is Set. Okay, in its context with them. In the true context, obviously, he's a masculine spirit man who wouldn't dream of being gay. It's very straightforward. Remember, Plato, his explanation of Prometheus, before, Manatheno, intelligence, Eus, forethinker, right? Versus the afterthinker. And they're thinking in terms of this world. And of course, when we look at the Proto-Indo-European, think of Berbers, think of Indonesia, where the Komodo dragon is, right? We get the word pra-math. Pra-math, to steal. Do the math. They're trying to steal it. If they're naturally supposed to be in charge, why are they trying to steal? Because they're not. Because they're expelled. In order for them to expel something, they're expelling the spirit and they're pilling you, which goes back to psychiatry and pharmakeia, or the expel, right? The expel, the X being the chi or the world, the energy, versus the CI of the hawk, the falcon, which is the spirit of God. Spirit versus the magic wand, Harry Potter. The world is basically choosing a bunch of witches and Harry Potters and weird Houdini sissies over true African martial arts warriors. And the martial arts they present to you is using demonstration, movies, plays, playing the game, the devil as the lord of the game, the lord of the flies. They are flying around the shit. They can't fly high. Horus, he who is far. Okay? Horror meaning face, the face of the sun. He's moving toward the sun. The flies are swirling around the shit. Beelzebub, the devil. So it also is a play on words for pro being before, pro-math, right? Pro-math, before steal, pro, before, thinking about in terms of a forethinker, math, myth, mate, mutt, meet, met, might, time, tame, tum, team. If they can be stolen, they are not of God, okay? If a bird can fly, you know, if it's born a bird, it's a bird. It's born and it moves with its instinct. That's what it is. Natural law in its true form. If it can be subjugated by the enemy, willingly or otherwise, it is of the enemy. If it insists on its rightful place in the divine order, it is in the divine order. If it exists after I'm gone, by default, it is sealed. Look at his seal's eyes. It's black. It's dead. Osiris, the lord of the dead. Hell, the deity of the underworld and the dead, right? The realm of the Nephilim, the fallen. They're dead. Just like Hades. Men mining the earth, the metals, right? The metals, okay? The E-tall, right? The E-tall. They're saying me tall, okay? And of course, the metals are used to interfere, okay? So as we go into the ninja, the smoke, the sacred geometry, okay, that's another thing I'll put at the end of this video, the sacred geometry. Okay, the samurai, the knight, the Chinese kung fu guy in the armor, right? Armor, okay? This goes back to the unnatural. They chose the unnatural direction long before the West dominated their countries and gave them their modern and current philosophies. Okay, they had already chosen the armor. And the Africans don't have the armor, they're in nature, right? That's dead giveaway. All Eastern martial arts, all Western martial arts are invalid. They are building on these unnatural ideas to move towards the unnatural, toward the world. Of course, Buddha is a play on words for body, the the Bodhi tree, right? The body tree. And of course, they're trying to butt in, and that goes back to a huge amount of wordplay: stab, slice, cut, chop, headbutt, right? Jab, hook, uppercut, back fist, knife edge, penetrate, trait, and so on and so forth. Pan meaning all the traitors. To raid, to storm, the brute, berate, the midget, the mage, D, add, G, the world, you know, the key, the Sumerian deity of the world. Armor and Amur play on words. They can take the brunt force, right? What's the purpose of armor? Is to take the force. Metal goes back to Hades, the metal of the earth, okay? They're taking the brute force. It's like taking the dick. These guys are gender neutral. They're teaching them to toughen their bodies and to take the brute force. To take the dick. What dick? The worldly dick, because they're not fighting against people like me anymore. And certainly even now, when they have drugged me to such a degree to where if I fight with them, they're not fighting against God. They're not they're not proving anything other than they can take on somebody that the whole world has come together to cripple and play their part a little bit and a lot, you know. So again, stab, bats, to be, obi, butts, bees, bites, AB goes back to headbutt, right? It causes you cognitive damage, just like their brute force, UFC, fighting, boxing, and so on and so forth, right? B-O-X, the X, the chi. The chi, look up the chi row, the X with the P, superimpose, right? And they're imposing themselves, they're butting in. They're thinking in terms of ass, right? The toilet, the world, the bowl, You know, the bowl, ball, bell, the bowl, the toilet bowl. Slice, E, kill, slay, C, E, cut, take, U, C, C, U, chop, cheap, peck, pick, pose, headbutt, butt in. I went over that. And there's jab, hook, uppercut, you know, YOB, bag, bore, bear, and to bear something, so on and so forth.